this point, might as well get closer because I'd like you to see all the action going on over here. I need to remove the caliper, so I'm going to go inside the vehicle so I can unlock the steering wheel, turn this wheel this way, then we can attack the bolts. You've got 2 caliper bolts. Here's one, there's another one down there. So here are those 2 caliper bolts I was talking about. This one here and another one down here. But before trying to remove this entire thing, I need to loosen the brake line. As you can see, this is a hard line attached here, down to the back right here. And I usually loosen this flex line over here as well, just to give me way more space to work with. And then I'm going to remove this. This is for your wheel speed sensor, okay, your ABS sensor, if that's what you'd like to call it. All right, so this goes down here. We'll address that later. So I need to get this here and this here. Not only is it important for flexibility of the caliper, but access. I can't get in there, so kind of have to start with that. 12 millimeters. Flip this over that way. This one might not really move. As you can see, it moves with the whole thing. I'll save that for a little later. This one here will come out, not a problem. Moving this out of the way is supposed to give me a little more clearance. So let's do this. It can survive a little bit of expanding. It's not the worst thing in the world. So pull it this way. Then I can come back this way. Hopefully I've just earned a little more space. Yeah, there you go. Now, with that out of the way, see, I get a little more clearance here. And this is a 22 millimeter socket, and said clearance, but still questionable clearance. I do have a 22 millimeter ratchet as well, but this one doesn't, you don't really have room to use it up here. Maybe at the bottom you can. Yeah, you have way more room at the bottom. Hopefully got the direction right. This is tightening. By the way, make sure you pay attention to the righty-tighty, lefty-loosey convention, because you're now looking at the fasteners in the opposite manner. So in this case, it's going to be righty-loosey, lefty-tighty, right? Thankfully, I've got a breaker bar over here and mine ratchet, so all I have to do is make sure I set it correctly while looking at it. Then I can go ahead and set it there without too much of a concern as to what direction I'm going. All right, so righty-tighty, righty-loosey. Keep saying it. And it helps to turn the wheel in this case, because with a breaker bar as long as this, it just gives me more room to work with. I've been able to do it inside here, you know, if you put the other wheel down or something like that. But when you do this, it really helps. Helps if you can lock the steering wheel again too. But this is gonna work for us. Nice. Then here, sitting here thinking, if you know, I wonder if I can use my power tool, but I'm very leery about power tools and calipers. I've had bad experiences with cross-threading, so I played very conservatively. Had to be the one that has no room for the wrench, huh? Yeah, I'm gonna have to just go little by little on this one. Maybe I should have started with the top one. Okay, power tool it is. Now we're going to go ahead and pull the caliper. Nice. Now I need to protect it the best way I can. There are many different ways to do it. You could set this on a, if you got a bucket maybe. For me, I'm going the hanging route. I'm going to stretch this. And again. Then wrap it around itself. As I said, many ways to do it, but this is going to work for me. So now I need to remove the rotor, and I've shown this in different videos that no need to fight it. This one is very easy to come out because, as I said, I just replaced this. But usually I have this threaded bolt that I send in this hole, and then that breaks it loose. I have a bolt. The thread is 8 by 1.25 metric. This one here is a 12mm head, and that's what I'm going to use here. So just thread that in. For Nissans and Infinitis, at least for the front rotors, you do have, there you go, and that's it. No fight necessary. This one is coming out fairly easily. And this is what a 1-week-old bearing hub looks like. I'm going to turn the whole assembly this way while trying to keep an eye on the brake deal, see what's going on with it. So here, I'd like to bring your attention to these. 1, 2, 3, and there's a 4th one in there. And this is what that looks like. So you mount it this way, and then you have bolts coming in from the back, from the steering knuckle, and they go in here, and they hold this hub onto the knuckle. And unfortunately, you absolutely can mount these upside down. It's the same this way or this way, but one thing that you need to pay attention to is this hole down here. This hole needs to always be at the bottom, because this cutout over here and the other side is where your wheel speed sensor goes into. This one right here. And that's a nice segue into this. I need to remove that before attempting any heavy work, because you'll end up breaking this in there. 10mm. And thankfully, I don't live in a rust prone area, so usually just turning it a few times will release it. And I'm grateful that I release it from here. I mean, it's not too hard to do it. Send this somewhere in the back, let it hang out. Do you see how long it is? Yeah, pay attention to that. We'll talk about that towards the end of the video again. Okay, so put this bolt back in. I like putting fasteners where they came from. And now I'm going to go in there to remove these bolts. I can see, at least I can see all of them from here, but I cannot access all of them from here. Okay, I have turned the flashlight on for this because to get to the back, it's going to be a combination of my breaker ratchet, long deep socket 17mm tool. This one can work here and everywhere else, and at some point I might need to use my my swivel joint down here, because as much as I can get the 17 in there, it's hard to get the 17 in there with the breaker bar, especially on the way out. On the way in, so for some reason it seems pretty doable. Yeah, Maybe. I'll try. We'll see. Well, yeah, that's the trick. That's all I'll be doing now. So let's go ahead. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Again, don't let the righty-tighty, lefty-loosey thing confuse you too much. Brakes, yeah, flexible enough. One. Two. This one here, as I said, it can get a little tricky sometimes. It all depends on the tool you have to, at your disposal. If I want to keep using the same tool, I'm going to use a shallower tool, my shallow socket, instead of the deep socket, right? Yeah, it's not grabbing on nicely, so need to get this and then this. There you go. It's a lot better. I like the engagement a little more this time. Using a swivel socket when you're trying to loosen something can be interesting sometimes. Alright, there you go. That hard, I had to let go with a long tool. It was a little difficult. It was getting bound up over here. But that's 3. So if you're counting with me, you'll remember that we said we had 4, but I only took 3 out from here. The reason is you cannot get the other one from here. You have to turn this the other way, and then we can gain access to it from the other side. Okay, so you can see that likewise from this side I could have had access to 1, 2, 3, but then I'd have to turn it to go to the other side. So same. The good thing about this side is I can use my deep socket. So this is what it looks like on the front end. As I remove the bolts, this retracts from that hole. But we're not fully out yet. This is half the battle, that is. The other half is explained by the presence of the hammer. Or a sledge, or whatever. Use whatever you have at your disposal. I need to now use some brute force to remove this from its friction fit over there. It does have a friction and also fastener fit. So right now it's tight, not loose at all. Come at it from this side and start tapping this way. This is just a demo. I'm going to put the phone down then I can go hammering at it a little more aggressively. But I just wanted to show you at least this is what I'll be doing. Are there tools to do it? Yeah, maybe, but I can't see any good ones. If I had an all-wheel drive model and you had the axle here, yeah, maybe you'd use an axle puller, or, you know, the other way, really. But in this case, force. I just can't see any better way to do it. And if you're curious about what this hole is when you need to replace one of the wheel studs. You come here, you know, there's a few different styles to do it. You could just bang at it if it's already broken or damaged in some way. If it's already broken, I mean, just pop it this way, it's going to come out through here. But if it's the full length, when you push it this way, you have a little more clearance over here to work it out, you know, as you turn it. And as you can see, it's much thicker over here than the threaded section. Anyway, so let's go ahead and hammer at it. Okay, good. And this might be a lot easier than it typically is, because this is a fairly new bearing. It's only 1 week old. But just beware that you might be putting in some effort to get this one out. This is like the best path I've found to do this. And out it goes. Sometimes, despite all your best efforts, it still jumps out. Yeah. Okay. Interesting that this is in there. It's fallen. It's just a dust cover, really, but still. But hey, at least we can talk about this. This is removable. And the reason I was talking about the hole at the bottom is that your wheel speed sensor comes in from the side, right here, right? And the way these are made is that you can use this on the right or the left, so you can install it this way or on the other side. But as long as you clock this one down towards 6 o'clock, then your wheel speed sensor will not be impacted. The thing that gets people sometimes is that you come here with all intentions of doing a good job, but if you do not remove this, you're going to shear it. See how long it is? And this is not even all the way fully in. Now it is. See how long it sticks, how long it is sticking in there? Yeah, imagine pulling it by force coming out. So this is what should happen if you install this correctly. There you go. See the holes match? And for the second part of the video, installation is the reverse of removal, but I'm not installing this one back on. I'm going to install this one here that I had gotten from my right side because it was not suspicious at the time. And what I usually do is get some sandpaper. I'm not trying to change the dimensions of anything, just pretty fine stuff just to remove the dusting. Most times I accompany with compressed air as well. Do the same thing on this. When they're new, you don't have to do that, but I couldn't. I'm going to buy a new one, don't get me wrong. I mean, as I said, it's just an hour. It's just that I'm still troubleshooting, and I'd hate to buy another brand new one if this is not the problem in the first place, you know? As I said, this is the boring part of it. Because ideally everything should work. No drama installing it. Ooh, dusty. Okay, install this. Just make sure you have the notch clocked to the 6 o'clock position, and you can't really screw it up any other way because it's just not going to work, right? There's not much drama with this. What I'd like to do is send one of these bolts through. Okay. I'll do this other side as well, just so I can hold the, I just need a second one, doesn't really matter where it comes from, just to hold it upright. There you go. Then this is going to hold this. Okay, so that that's not turning. Then come at it with this and start threading it. I'm changing the angle of the bearing to try to work it in. This is usually one of the hardest parts, honestly, for me. Just getting it started. There you go. I think that's catching now. Okay, feel some resistance. I'm going to try the bottom one. Feels kind of good. Kind of does. So I'm going to go at it with something not as strong, my smaller ratchet. Seems to be pulling it. Slow, but it's working. As I said, experience has taught me that you should never get too confident when you're working blindly. You can't see what's happening on the other side. In this case, it's actually on my side, but I still can't see very well. Never get too confident and then start blasting at it with a power tool. This is not a good move. Let's go ahead and thread this as far as I can. See the second one over there? Okay, this down here this was my guide, and I think it's doing pretty well. I'm just going to cross over so I can bring it sort of evenly. Okay, as you can see, this is still rather loose. So I'm going to, something might pop here as it violently pulls it back or courses it back into the hole. Feels nice and tight over there. And hey, it's not moving that much at the top. Let's go ahead and do the bottom as well. Okay, there you go. So going by the dust shield, the brake dust shield, we're pretty much well mounted, right? So that's pretty good, but we're gonna go ahead and take it all the way home. Good. Okay, I'm done with 3 out of 4 bolts over here. All right, here we go. Turn the lights on for you. Now, if you remember, during the removal stage, I could not use my deep socket because there was no room, right? Okay, I had to use my shallow socket with a swivel to get in, right? And I also mentioned that, surprisingly, during installation, you can actually make do without the swivel joint. And let me show you how and why. There, this is what I was talking about. It somehow works a little better on the way in, that you can do it without needing your swivel. And if you're doing it the right way and using a torque wrench, you know, the swivel might make things a little complicated. So let's see, maybe I can have the camera looking while I'm working, but I'm not really stressed about this in this case. Just again, torque to spec. Okay, there you go. Nice and tight. Now we're gonna go ahead and reinstall this one here, our wheel speed sensor. It only goes one way, so can't screw that up. There you go. We're going to do the reverse of what we did on the way in, which is we pulled the caliper, then we put the rotor on. So we're going to put the rotor on, then put the caliper. The caliper is another part that gets a little tricky sometimes. One, make sure your pistons, you did not push your brake to cause your pistons to come together. So that's one part. I'm fishing the brake line back, fishing it through. Okay, there you go. Slid right on. Ooh, pinched myself. Be careful, guys. And I'm going to try to thread one of them in. This is another one that might give me problems in this video. It gives me problems often. You're supposed to hold this flush mounted, you know, just centered just right against the hole. Let me, like this, let's do this. You're supposed to hold this caliper right here, flush mounted, and then send this through the knuckle and then start threading this. And being aluminum, it feels good throughout. You might start cross-threading it, so just be careful. This is something you do not want to mess up at all. Okay. What I might do is start with the bottom, or work with the bottom as well, because it looks like the bottom is so far. Push the rotor in. Well, it's there. Remember I said that the bottom one is the one that would fit with the wrench. So let's go ahead and use that to our advantage. Go ahead and tighten the top one, or at least thread it in. 22mm tools. it's going in, it's very smoothly actually. So I like it when it can do that without necessarily needing power tools. So this is good. There isn't much resistance. I'm liking it. Okay, feels tight to me, and now it's time to fully secure it. There you go. Being an aluminum body, you don't want it to feel tight, then oof, suddenly loose, you know? So that's good, that's going to work. So let's go ahead and put everything else back together, starting with this. Usually you struggle with it a little bit, you can get it over. I mean, remember me bending it, right? Okay, there you go. And there is a recess over there, so you shouldn't really miss the hole, so to say. As you tighten it, just make sure it's oriented properly. If I had not been holding the phone, I would do this, you know, one hand tightening, the other one just holding it down. And there should be an imprint, by the way. Gives you a guide as to where it should go. But I think we're doing just fine here. For its intended purpose, you know. We're fine. Then over here, remove the bolt, turn this way, bend things around until it gets close to home, thread it in. Okay, this in here, set it back home, wheel speed sensor. Then this one here, it's pretty simple to work this one in, but it also has a home position. Can you see the imprint, right? So you've got a bump here and another one on the other side. Those will stop it. Now, does it matter where you install it? Maybe not, but this is more so for people that like things perfect. Let's go ahead and put its nut there. This one isn't really much trouble. I'd say at this point we are pretty much done, and the next move is to mount the wheel and go for a test drive. While it's possible to install the wheel with the steering wheel turned, it is much easier to do it with it facing straight ahead. So we're gonna unlock it. All right. Now, depending on how much you trust yourself, you could go at it with a power tool right now. But sometimes I like to just start off simple. And once I'm sure that that's catching, turn it over. And I like to do the skip one clockwise when I'm tightening. Then when removing the wheel, I skip one counterclockwise, if I remember. Otherwise, just keep it clockwise all the time. As I said, you could start this way if you trust yourself. It's kind of hard to cross-thread these threads, but I've seen it happen. Like that. Did not feel good at all. That felt much better. Go ahead and torque these wheels. There you go. Now let's go for a test drive.